this is our last session, and so the read aloud portion of reading workshop does not happen during reading workshop. So we've talked all sessions about readers workshop, that hour and 15-minute, hour and a half block that includes independent reading time. It starts with your mini lesson, it gets into independent reading, ends with a sharing. That's our reading workshop time. The read aloud portion of balanced literacy happens at a separate time of the day. And we will talk about our schedules and where we fit in read aloud. But the texts from read aloud then get used during the mini lesson. So that's how we keep our mini lesson only about 10 minutes long. Because we're not reading to the kids during the mini lesson. We've already read the book at a different time of the day, and we're just plugging in. We're using that book as a mentor text, but we're not reading it. And then I referenced this before at one of our very first workshops, that the read aloud is important because when we're doing a read aloud and it's separate from the mini lesson, we're not using the read aloud to teach one specific skill. We're actually reading a story and we're showing kids how we use all different types of strategies and skills at the same time. So it's kind of like in a volleyball game. At practice, I'm going to make sure that I do both. At practice, when I'm coaching, I'm going to make sure that I'm teaching my volleyball players how to set. So we're isolating that skill and we're just practicing setting. But I also have to make sure during my practice that at the end of practice, we do some kind of scrimmage so they can see how does setting fit into the actual game of volleyball. Similar to reading, my mini lesson during my reading workshop block might be about how to make an inference. So I'm going to isolate a part of a book and I'm going to specifically teach readers how to make an inference. But then during my read aloud, at some point during my read aloud, I might be inferring, and then I'm going to ask a question, and then I'm going to use my background knowledge, and then I'm going to infer again what a character might be feeling, and then I'm going to stop and retell. And so I'm doing everything because that's how people read. They actually use all strategies at once. It's not common to read and only infer, and read and only ask questions. So when we do our read aloud, we show kids how all the mini lessons that we've taught them come together to help them understand the book. So, when does read aloud happen? If it doesn't happen during that reader's workshop time, it's your choice how it works for your schedule, but the Teachers College did recommend that the read aloud is separate from the reader's workshop time. There's also two different types of read aloud, and we're just going to talk about those briefly. There's interactive read aloud, which I do a lot of in second grade, and then we're just going to call it just regular read aloud, and we use more of like a chapter book during that time, and I do that in second grade too, but that's most of what happened in fifth grade. So we're going to talk about each type of read aloud, and then we'll show how it fits into the day. So interactive read aloud is read aloud with accountable talk. So this is a separate portion of the day. I do this type of reading, or this type of read aloud in the morning. So for my daily schedule, my kids come in, we have writing workshop, and then a little brain break, and then in between writing and math while they're having their snack, this is when I do the interactive read aloud. In the afternoon, while they're having their snack, I do my just regular chapter book read aloud. So when I'm doing this, separate from my reading workshop, because my reading workshop is in the afternoon, this is often 15 to 20 minutes, but it is with my whole class. I've prepped a book and planned a book, because I'm using this interactive read aloud time to teach. I'm making sure that it's engaging, I'm supporting kids in their comprehension, and when I do this, I'm the reader. So I am bringing my A game, I put up there, I'm doing the word solving, I'm the one doing the print work. I might ask you to turn and talk to your partner, but this is going to be another time where kids are listening, but they're learning, because I'm going to do a lot of the teaching. I do have parts marked in my read aloud where I'm going to turn to kids and I'm going to ask them questions, or I'm going to ask them to gesture or to mimic what a character might be doing, and so they can understand how a character might be feeling. I might ask them to do some comprehension out loud, or turn and try, turn and talk, turn and sketch, or something like that. So I'm going to be practicing a lot of skills with the kids, and not isolating a skill, but repeating the practice of a lot of things. So what I did was I just brought a book that I have marked out, well, two books that I've used for read alouds at the beginning of the year. And I select my read alouds based on what I want to be teaching during my reading workshop time. So we were doing a lesson on For this one, we were doing a lesson on inferring character feelings. That was what a lot of my mini lessons were. And so for my book, when I planned this as a read aloud, are you guys familiar with this book, Leonardo the Terrible Monster? Okay, it's a fantastic book. Leonardo the Terrible Monster by Mo Willems. And so I always, when I do interactive read aloud with kids, start by reminding them to do a sneak peek. So I always will open it up and say, okay, so Leonardo the Terrible Monster by Mo Willems. And it'll be on the document camera so all the kids can see and like, okay, well, thinking out loud, that's probably Leonardo. And it says he's a terrible monster. Wonder what that might mean. Well, here's a little blurb that might tell us something about the book. So listen while I read that blurb, and I'll read it. And say, oh, okay, so what are the things that we learned about Leonardo from that blurb? Well, we learned that he's a monster, and he's probably the main character. Number 2, we learned he's not good at being a monster. And 3, he finds a little boy to scare. So we're going to probably learn how he scares that monster. Maybe he's going to change. I'm not really sure. So pay attention, because we've been talking about characters and how sometimes they change during the story. So while we're reading it today, make sure that you're noticing Leonardo and how his feelings might change. Okay, so then, if I was doing this as a read aloud, I would start like this. Leonardo was a terrible monster. And then I might show on the document camera Leonardo, and I'd say to my kids, okay, oh, look at his face, though. Look at his face. He doesn't look terrible. He doesn't look terrible like he's really bad. He looks kind of like he's sad. So I'm kind of thinking about that word terrible. Maybe it doesn't mean he's terrible like he's really good. He's good at being bad. Maybe terrible actually means that he's not good at being a monster. Are you thinking that? I'm thinking about word meaning. He couldn't scare anyone. Readers, pay close attention. You know how readers sometimes look at pictures and they try to learn more from the pictures? Well, this is one of those times where I'm going to look at the picture. Besides the text, he couldn't scare anyone. Look at these 2 people and look at what they're looking at each other like. Do you see that? Okay, can you pretend that you're one of these people in this picture, and can you turn to your partner? What are some things that you might be saying to each other about Leonardo? So the kids will turn, and like when I did this in the class, they were all saying, oh, look at, he's such a cute little monster, so they can understand the feelings that these 2 people have. Didn't have 1,642 teeth like Tony. He wasn't big like Eleanor. And he wasn't just plain weird like Hector. Oh, do you know what I just noticed, readers, is that, remember that book, Unicorn Thinks He's Pretty Great, where we had that character Unicorn, and he was comparing himself to the goat, and he was noticing all the things that he didn't have. Is anybody else thinking that, like, Leonardo is comparing himself to other monsters just like the unicorn? Isn't that interesting that 2 characters in other books can kind of be doing the same thing? So obviously my little point there was comparing characters. A little bit more. Leonardo tried very hard to be scary, but he just wasn't. One day, Leonardo had an idea. He would find the most scaredy cat kid in the whole wide world and scare the tuna salad out of him. Do you guys remember when we were talking about expressions and how authors sometimes use interesting expressions? What in the world do you think that might mean? And scare the tuna salad out of him. Can you turn to your partner and tell what kids turn to their partner? So there I'm working on like inferring what a word might mean. So I'll summarize the end of the book. It's a really cute story. Leonardo researched until he found the perfect candidate, and then it's the little boy named Sam. Leonardo snuck up on the poor, unsuspecting boy. And on this page I made a note that we're going to turn and talk to use picture clues to figure out what the word unsuspecting might mean. And they can tell that he's like sneaking up and he's not expecting it. So maybe unsuspecting might mean like sneaky or not prepared. And the monster gave it all he had. So, until the little boy cried. Yes, cheered Leonardo, I did it. I finally scared the tuna salad out of someone. No, you didn't, snapped Sam. Oh yeah, replied Leonardo, then why are you crying? And then, the kids love this page. This is a fun book to read aloud because then he has all of these reasons. Like, my big brother stole my action figure right out of my hands while I was still playing with it, and then he broke it on purpose in my favorite. And he goes on and on and on and on and on. And he says, that's why And then I planned ahead, I wanted to stop on this page because I wanted kids to see the moment that a character changes, because one of our mini lessons was about characters changing, so I'd highlight that. So, do you guys notice Leonardo's face on this page? If we go back, do you notice his face on this page? Do you see how it changed? Try to tell your partner, what do you think Leonardo is feeling here? And what do you think he's feeling here? And did he change, and what caused him to change? So talk. At the end of the story, he decides that Leonardo, instead of being a bad monster, he's going to be a wonderful friend. And so then maybe at the end of the story, then I'd turn and talk, or I'd have the kids talk about a lesson that they learned, or I would share maybe what the author wanted to teach. So throughout the book, and I won't read this one out loud, but I'll just show you again how I've planned it. I mark it up with Post-it notes where I want kids to, again, I'm going to read a word, and I'm going to either talk out loud what I think the word might mean, and what the clues are that led me to that conclusion, or I'm going to have kids turn and talk to each other. I'm going to have them think in their head, raise a hand, and then maybe I'll just do some talk aloud and have them think with me. They can stop and jot. This one, another one, I sometimes just have them stop and think. I'll highlight a time change where the author had us go back in time to when this girl was little. Sometimes I'll have, this is really good for like younger kids, I'll read a page and then I'll have them pretend to like be the main character, or mimic the main character, show me the expression on your face of how you might be feeling right now and why. So there's all kinds of strategies that I'm using when I'm doing my read aloud. It's not just word solving, but I'm pulling in that inferring. I'm asking questions, I'm having them ask questions, I'm having them make inferences, and all of those things all at once while we're doing a reading book.
Yeah, just a few other points that I wrote down while you were doing this. I think the big points for the interactive reload is one, it has to be pre-planned. I feel like what you're choosing to share can't be as organic, and you're going to get more out of it and be able to apply it directly to your mini lesson if you do the pre-planning. Whitney had brought up the use of the document camera. That was something that, it wasn't new to me, but they really pointed that out at Teachers College, that the more visual you can make it for the students, not just the text for them to see with the pictures. And sometimes just, I learned this when I taught for 1 hour in a first grade classroom, that if you're trying to like show all the pictures, the people over here are already saying, I can't see, and that was shocking to me. I'm coming to you, and I just couldn't get to them quick enough. So using the document camera was another just kind of a simple, quick strategy that I don't always remember to do. The third thing is we do have a resource, I believe, in the district at the different buildings called Interactive Read Aloud, and it's a teacher's manual. Pam, are you confirming that a lot of?
Yeah, way back in the day, every grade level got one.
Yeah,
There's
so
a K1, a 2, 3.
a couple things. One, it's a nice reference point if you have not done a lot of interactive reloads. It's a great starting point. They've got picture books already selected, linked to specific strategies in there. I also use it sometimes if I know I'm not going to be at school, but I want a certain strategy covered in a lesson. It's scripted so that it's something that a substitute teacher could do as well, and yet your reading class is still going on as you want it to go on. So it's a nice resource, especially for a starting point. The other part is I'm finding when I do the interactive reloads for 5th grade that I sometimes can't get through a whole book. So like today I started a new book related to World War II that ties into what we're reading for book clubs, and I got through like 4 pages from my interactive reload, and then we'll finish it up tomorrow. So I don't always say, I don't know if you do.
No, not at all. No.
And I know at Teachers College, when they did this with us at the upper elementary level, we spent a whole week on one book. Like, it took us a whole week to get through one picture book. And she said she purposefully planned it that way so that it was specific to certain learning targets she wanted each day. I haven't taken a whole week to do one, but, and then the only other thing is at 5th grade or at the upper grades, I find that I do more of the turn and talk and stop and jots, only because I found that many of my students, if they can prep what they want to share first, or they can sketch something quick, their conversations seem more effective for the older kids. I feel like sometimes that innocence of the younger kids, they just want to talk right away, where the older kids seem a little bit more timid, or they're always worried that they're not going to share the right thing. So I feel like if they can do a little pre-planning, it helps with it.
And then these texts that I use for the interactive read aloud, they become mentor texts then that I reference during my mini lesson. So after reading Leonardo the Terrible Monster, or part of it if we didn't get through the whole thing, then later in the year or that week, the following week, when I have a mini lesson on, let's say, theme, then I can bring this book, and instead of let's read the whole book and then talk about it and then talk about theme, I can just bring this book out and say, remember this book that we read during our read aloud a couple weeks ago, Leonardo the Terrible Monster? Really quick, remember what it was about, and then, well, today what I want to teach you is that sometimes authors write stories at the end, and at the end of the story, the author wants us to think about something. And usually, we have to look at the character and how the character changed in order to learn that lesson, right? So you guys remember when we were reading this book, that way back here, right after Leonardo scared Sam, he changed, right? How did he change? What made him change? And then what might that teach us? What might the author want to teach us? So then I can get right into my lesson and keep it like 7 to 10 minutes instead of reading the entire story cover to cover, because I've already done that during my read aloud.
So, two things. One, we are calling the read aloud just read aloud. I feel like this is what most people are most comfortable and most familiar with. One of the things I have done with the books that I've read as mentor text or read aloud books in my classroom is I screenshot a picture of it, and I have a little bulletin board in my classroom that just says books we've read, and I have them clothespin on like a little clothesline. And I have found, one, if I don't have the book at my ready and I want to reference it in something I'm doing, and it seems to connect a lot to social studies lately, seeing the visual of the books hung in the classroom, the kids will reference them a lot too, and be like, that reminds me of Selvin, A Long Walk to Water, when we're talking about persevering and, despite all the adversity that he's faced in his life. So just as a visual, not only for me sometimes to reference it, but it's nice for the students to see the books that we read to reference it as well. As far as read aloud, when Whitney shared kind of the schedule of when she does it, mine are similar. Some days I don't get my interactive in my read aloud, some days it's just read aloud. Especially if my interactive text has already been read and I'm going to reference it multiple times that week in my mini lesson. So I typically do my actual read aloud. I found the time that it fits in. We have a time where students are doing just what I need work, so sometimes it's intervention and different things, and we just have to call it win time. Right after that time, I've got about 15 minutes before they go to lunch, and I found that that's a nice way to kind of settle them, regroup them all. Some kids are coming in from interventions, from different rooms, and so that's the time. I have to be honest, I've changed my read aloud time 3 times this year. So we're very flexible in my class, and thankfully my students will go with the flow. So as far as read aloud, it's typically 10 to 15 minutes. I think we both agree it's usually a chapter book for both of us. It is a whole class read, and typically when I'm doing the read aloud, I will try to read multiple chapters. I'm getting through in the book we're reading now about 2 or 3 at a time. And usually when I'm choosing my read aloud book, the text is going to be above many of my kids' independent reading levels. The goal is to kind of push them as readers, and because this is a text that I'm doing all the reading work for them, I'm doing the decoding, they're doing comprehension, like more of the oral comprehension practice, the text is written at a higher level. It doesn't mean that there are some kids that can't read the text, because I'm sure that there are in many classes and there are in mine, but I'm pushing their level of learning. As far as prepping and pre-planning, there is a little bit that goes into it, and it's more so when I know the book, I know where I want to stop. To me, it's the prepping and planning for 2 things. One, the engagement piece, because I want the students to be engaged in the book I'm reading, so if I'm going to stop at a certain spot, I'm not going to go on to finish reading begging, which is a good thing because then I know I've got them where I want them, and we'll finish up the next day. The other parts that I typically will plan or prep in advance are specific questions that I want them to think about. And even though it's not interactive read aloud, I'm still going to bring in some strategy work in my read alouds. Specifically with this, we've worked on themes, but a big thing throughout all of our books. And so we've talked about theme throughout the story. They talk about the tone or the mood. This story is just sad and then it's uplifting, and so we are able to track the moods and just share some of that. So that kind of goes with the next bullet of reading is more continuous with less stopping. It is more continuous. The stops are totally organic. Like it just might be something that came to mind. I'm trying to think of what it was today in the book. We're reading World War II historical fiction story to go along with the book clubs that we're doing. And so today it just happened that one of the book club books shared something in their meeting, and it tied specifically to the book we're reading. And even though no one else is reading the book, but 5 kids in the class, someone was able to make the connection right away. And I didn't plan for that, but the students were able to have the conversation with it. So I'm still modeling my think alouds, and students, if they're curious or they have curious thoughts they want to share, I open and welcome those. But something that I took away from another workshop I went to in the beginning of New York is you don't want to stop all the time, because then the students start getting drained down. They're losing their ability to stay focused because now they're often distracted. And so it's okay to just sometimes just read straight through. And I think that was nice to be kind of given that permission, because I feel like so often we're told like everything has to be learning, and they are learning. They're hearing you read fluently, and they're hearing you decode, and they're hearing you read with expression. So if there are stops, they're definitely more organic.
Yeah, I think what I would add is just like what's on the next slide is that I just do 2 different read aloud times, and Kelly referenced this too, that she tries for it. And mine, maybe with my schedule and just having 2nd grade, it's a little bit easier, but in the morning, I just take 20 minutes to do the interactive read aloud while they're having their morning snack, and so I use that's where I do my interactive read aloud with a picture book. Again, that's the pre-plan. I'm stopping multiple times. I have it ready to go. It's a lot more me. And then I use this text as a mentor text in future mini lessons. Then I have my reading workshop kind of in the middle of the day, and then in the afternoon, after they come in from their 2nd recess from 2 to 2:15, that's where I just take out a chapter book. And it's like Callie just said, I read that one just all the way through, minimal stopping. If there is stopping, it's more organic, it's kids' curiosity, it might be something that I think of on the spot, but that one's definitely less planned for me. And then I can also use my chapter book as a mentor text too, depending on the mini lesson that I'm going to teach to 2nd grade, because 2nd grade, like some of the kids, sometimes you need a picture book to teach your lesson, sometimes you need a chapter book to teach visualizing, for example. So this way with 2 read aloud times, I have 2 mentor texts that I can pick from, and the kids are getting 2 different experiences.
The only other thing I think that I found I've done more this year is I've used articles, news articles or News ELA as my mentor text. So sometimes I guess it's not a picture book. And I found that using current events for the mentor text, especially if it ties into my book clubs or my non-fiction units, they seem to make a more kind of a nice connection with the students. So
if it isn't feasible and you're like, oh, I just have no time to get in 2 read alouds, like I know I can do that picture book one, but I don't know when I can get my chapter book read aloud. Or how is she getting like 2 or 3 chapters read a day? I feel like I can only get 1. Another tip from presenter at Teachers College was that you can do read aloud of chapter books when kids are doing things like transitioning from one subject to the next, or when they're getting ready to line up to go to specials. So, okay, put your math journals away, put your pencil away, make sure you push your chair in, but then they have to do it quietly because you're going to read another page or 2 of your read aloud book. If you're one of those people that gets to specials and there are other classes that you're waiting for them to be done, bring your chapter book because you can read aloud while the kids are waiting in line for their specials to start. So you can really get creative with times and try to sneak some more times in. All right, almost done.
So I feel like we've kind of already hit on this one. The best part of this, so what do students do during read aloud? Our goal with both interactive read aloud and our read aloud is that they should be listening and thinking. We say visualizing, envisioning, using their strategies, eating their snacks, yes. Not getting up and moving around the room and throwing their snacks out. Turning and talking, we talked about. Acting something out. Do you do that quite a bit with your?
A lot, like facial expressions. Like we're reading Mr. Popper's Penguins right now, and Mrs. Popper just got back from work and realized that Mr. Popper has a penguin that he received in the mail. So before I even started the chapter, I said, like, why don't you turn to your table group and pretend that you're Mrs. Popper and you just got home from work. What expression would you have on your face when you walk through the front door? So then that gets them inferring, character feelings, all those things.
So, and something that triggered that is with 5th graders, what I've done is we'll read text, and I remember like one of the words was sauntering. So a lot of kids didn't know what it meant. So I said, all right, everyone get up. We talked about what it meant. They did it, and I took a picture of them, put the definition of it up, put it on the walls. So like sometimes it's just, I feel like at the upper grades too, and well, and for second grade too, it's the vocabulary that sometimes stumbles the kids.
Yep.
So sometimes just talking about the definition of what the words mean. I feel like that's that background knowledge that some of the kids miss out on. That goes along with then the gesturing,
Yep.
jotting, stopping and jotting a picture or a thought or a sketch to stretch. The key is you're not sleeping or laying down. And so I know they said multiple times in teachers' colleges, you're not reading kids to sleep, you're reading them awake. It's their parents' job to read them to sleep at night. That's not what you want to do at school.
Yep. Make them think, make it engaging, make it interactive. Read the crowd, like, too many stopping points or not enough stopping points, but definitely it's not a time to just, I actually don't even have the kids drawing or doodling or any of that stuff, because I really would like their minds engaged in the book. So I don't mind if they eat their snack, but then the other thing I have is, if they finish their snack, they know it's impolite to get up in the middle and to go throw your snack wrapper away. Obviously, if something spills, you can clean it up, but we just talked about how that's still kind of like a lesson. And so the 20 minutes, if you finish your snack during the read aloud, just keep it right at your desk. You can throw it away when we're all done. So we just have this time that's really focused on reading and talking about the book.
And I have to say, it does take training, like even at the 5th grade level, to get the students to understand, like, my students do not write, they do not color, they don't work on homework when I'm doing read aloud. I kind of have told them, like, that's a sacred time. We're engaging with this text. We're becoming one with the book. I want you to feel like you're part of the story. So it's just kind of sacred time.
One more tidbit is if you're having kids stop and jot or do something, another little aha from Teachers College was to make sure the writing that you're having the kids doing doesn't take them out of the text for more than 30 seconds. So if it's a stop and jot, it's really quick. I would never just do read a page and then have kids write a paragraph or 2 paragraphs about the text. It's more about
Or
the
drawing
reading.
illustration.
Yep.
Just quick.
We're going to turn to talk, but just think in your head, what do you have currently in place for Read Aloud? What would you like to change? If there's any questions that come to mind.
Okay.
The last thing we had was on book selection, because the feedback we got on a lot of the exit slips from last session was how do you give the books to read? How do you choose your Read Aloud text, the picture books, and the chapter books? So we're going to give some resources on our last slide, but just things to keep in mind. We usually keep in mind 3 big reasons for why we pick our Read Aloud books, and Callie and I both had these in common. 1, to build background knowledge. 2, sometimes can make a connection to social studies or science. And then 3, for me in 2nd grade would be the major one, plans to revisit it in a mini lesson. So I'm already thinking ahead to some of my mini lessons that I want to teach. I know the books that I want to reference, and I want to make sure that I've read them ahead of time so that I can use them in my mini lesson. Do you want to touch on the other 2?
I feel like the background knowledge and connection to social studies, I don't teach science this year, so that's why I'm not making that connection, but of course that can happen. I have found that as I try to integrate reading and social studies together, that a lot of my Read Aloud text does have a connection to social studies, so I do try to look at the social studies standards, what I'm trying to, the standards I'm trying to meet in reading, and if I can connect the 2, I do. It hasn't happened as fluently as it has this year, so that's something I've kind of grown to figure out. Otherwise, I feel like as far as plans to revisit the mini lesson, that's probably my biggest way of choosing just for my interactive. But otherwise, for my Read Aloud, sometimes it's just a new book that's out that is kind of a buzz. And I've done a first chapter Friday on it like a month or 2 ago, and no one's really picked it up yet. And I'm like, what, I feel like this one might be a good one. So
This is our last slide then, and we just have some references of places where we get books. And these links will be available online because the presentation will be posted, so you can click them. My all-time favorite place to get book recommendations is the Jane Addams Peace Association book website. I was introduced to this when I was a student teacher at the University of Wisconsin-Madison because my cooperating teacher is on the committee that picks the award-winning book. The Jane Addams Peace Children's Book Award is given to a book every year, older reader and younger reader, that has themes of social justice. They are so rich, all the picture books for any discussions on character development or theme or figurative language. The website I can actually get from, I'll just go here. and pull it up. But the website is really user-friendly too. So this is the homepage of the website. But if you want a list of titles, I don't know if anybody's heard of any of these, but these are some of the books that have won from last year. So what you can do is, there's two ways. You can go to
These cute little 4-year-olds.
and a PDF that gives you the titles of all of the books with a really, summaries, just the author and illustrator. So there's an award book and an honor book for each year. My favorite feature of the website is this one. You can find a book by social justice topic. So if you click find a book by social justice topic, there's this database that they've created. And so what you can do is, I can go down here and I can pick a social justice issue, like I want a social justice issue addressed, national, racial, or cultural identities of key characters. I can pick an era in which the book takes place, specific people made real, age of child for whom the book is most appropriate, or peace and justice theme. So I'll pick age of child for whom the book is most appropriate, and then I can see the results. And so I can pick, like, I'll do 6 to 8. So I want for children's ages 6 to 8, and search. And then there's a whole bunch of books, and this gives like a nice little summary of each book, and then it links it to. So Amber was brave, Essie was smart. I'll click that one, and then here comes the title, and then here's a little summary. This is a beautifully written book told in the voices of 2 sisters about what it is like for a family when the father has been sent to jail. Mother is working long hours to keep the family together, and the children are trying to make sense of their lives. Poetic, powerful, and tender, Amber and Essie are portrayed with a deep understanding of children's perspectives and the cost of families of incarceration. Not all books are that. Oh, and Vera B. Williams, who wrote, obviously, Chair for My Mother, is the author and illustrator. Not all the books are that deep, but there are some outstanding, really, really interesting stories. This one is awesome. Brave Girl, Clara and the Shirtwaist Makers Strike of 1909. This little girl is an immigrant, and she comes to the United States, and she needs to make money for her family. And so she's a Jewish immigrant, and she ends up working at basically it's like not a sweatshop, but a factory in urban New York. And she realizes that the working conditions are terrible, and then she, with other workers, stands up and they strike. They bring about change, and so that like children's workers and factory workers didn't have to suffer anymore. So the themes and topics they're deep and they're rich, but I have found some of the best conversations in my classroom have come from books that have either won this award or have been nominated for the award. So that's my favorite place to get book recommendations.
So the other ones that we had put on here, is anyone familiar with the CCDC?
Yeah.
Okay, so, and I love it because, they are local. And so if you're not, the Cooperative Children's Book Center is part of the University of Cincinnati. So, well, you went to school there. So
Yep,
did you ever
it's part of the library. It's like a cool little, you did too. It's in the Helen C. White Library, and it's amazing.
And so it's a great reference and a great resource for text, for books. They even have book sales, I think, a couple times a year that they're making book recommendations. So that's one that we threw on there. Another one, that's below that. So I just kind of came across this one today, the Teachers College. And it's kind of nice because they have Read Aloud titles that they're recommending for different grade levels. They're recommending interactive ones. Then they have ones for just Read Aloud with some summaries as well. So it's a really huge long PDF, but more reference and resources.
The next one I loved, Imagination Soup. This is a former teacher blog, but it's a really popular blog, and she groups together texts that have similar themes. So recommendation for books with kids with divorced parents, but it keeps going. New chapter books, winter 2018. Best mystery picture skills. What's new in picture books, winter 2018. Best children's books about bugs. She just has the neatest top lists, and they're super easy. Writing activities for wordless picture books, and some of these I've found in my library. They're awesome. Writing a story. She'll do the 20 best picture books about empathy. So it's a really great place to go if you're looking for a picture book that has a certain topic or skill.
Yes, and I was actually just on this today.
Okay.
So there's just, when you come across random blogs that you find about teachers that are passionate about parents that are passionate about books and reading. So this was another one where they just give great ideas for different read alouds. and actually like picking your strategies for what you might want to focus on. So in this case, point of view for teaching theme, and they actually will link right to them the different texts that you can use, picture books for each of the interactive periods. I think the last one.
The last couple we just had, we are both on Twitter, and there are some really awesome people or companies to follow on Twitter. One of them is Mr. Shu Reads, and he is the ambassador of school libraries for Scholastic, and honestly, I don't even know how he keeps up with all the books.
I know, because he actually teaches too.
Yes.
Like he's got a full-time teaching job and then works for Scholastic.
But he will just tweet a picture of a book and then maybe a little bit about it, but not much usually, but at least it's just the cover. So you can see the cover and you can read the title and like, oh, I didn't know about that. He does it all the time. He's constantly tweeting. Heinemann, the publisher, they will tweet a lot about books that are new and books that are coming.
I didn't think about Donalyn Miller. If you've ever seen her speak, she's a current 6th grade teacher, speaks a lot at the reading conferences, especially in Wisconsin. She's written Book Whisper and that was the first one, Reading in the Wild. She's got a goal every year of reading at like hundreds of books, and so she will rank them. The other one that I was thinking of when you were talking about social justices, I follow a group called Project Lit on Twitter, and it is very similar. They're not the Jane Addams, but they're out of it's a high school that's created this community to promote diverse books in schools and books that deal with social justice issues. And so, like, A Long Walk to Water was one of the books on their list. And so it's kind of fun. I'm looking at joining it next year, the actual community of it. But they give great book recommendations. I've noticed, especially for the higher grades, just to include diversity in the books that they're reading to your students.
To conclude, I did have one book that I was going to just very quickly share. And the theme of the book is thank you for coming to all of our workshops if you attended them. And to consider, if you're thinking about trying something new with Reading Workshop either this year or next year, that learning something new can sometimes be scary. And I thought this book was introduced to us in my small group at the Teachers College at the very end. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at the end of our session when all of us were like, oh my gosh, there's so much information and I just don't even know how to start. The book is called Walk On, A Guide for Babies of All Ages by Marla Frazee. And the back says, including handy tips, common pitfalls, and a checklist. And the book is for people of all ages. It's very quick, but I just thought it's a nice little conclusion and a little bit of motivation if you're feeling overwhelmed about trying something new. Is sitting there on your bottom getting boring? Has lying around all the time become entirely unacceptable? It is time to learn how to walk. First thing you've got to do is stand on your own 2 feet. It sounds easier than it is. You will need support. This is tricky because sometimes what you think will support you won't. Isn't that the truth? Be careful of things that are wobbly. You don't want anything to fall on top of you. Stay away from fragile stuff too. You don't need something new to cry about. Now, get a grip, pull yourself up, stand. Are your knees buckling? That's okay. Straighten up. See how different everything looks from here. Find your balance. It may take some time. Remember to breathe. Feel the sway, but don't let it tip you over. You think you've got it, let go. Oops, it's very common to fall down. Hey, it's okay. Go ahead and cry if it helps. Feel better now? Thinking about teaching and trying new things. You can try again, but first, run down the checklist. Are your socks bunching up? Are your shoes too tight or too loose? Is your diaper weighing you down? Fix whatever you can before you start over. Once you can stand up without holding on to anything, get ready to take that first step. Make sure the path ahead of you is clear. You don't want any obstacles blocking your way or any rough patches tripping you up. Block out all those voices saying, come on, it's easy, let's go already. What are you waiting for? Don't just stand there. This is boring. Shh. You can do it. Now. Don't be scared. Go. Only begin when you are ready. Important. Don't look down at your feet. Look toward where you want to go. Imagine yourself as already there. Then, when the time is right for you, take the first step. And another. And another. It gets easier, huh? Baby, you are walking. Beautiful. So just a cute little way to think about plunging into something brand new. Taking that first step, feeling confident. It's okay if you fall. Having the path clear. Taking that first step when you're ready. So thank you to everybody who's watching, and thank you for everybody who's coming. We appreciate all of your attendance this year, and we're always here for the rest of the year and next year if you have questions. So thanks.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.